and welcome everyone to Stone Soup Poetry. I'm going to unmute everyone for our first online feature. I wanted to get used to this and get my sea legs, so to speak, as far as get my bearings on the online business. And I knew that the first person I wanted to ask was the person who was, one of our best features in one of our last Cambridge outings, which was at the Brew on the Grid. I believe she was the last feature we ever had before they said, "Oh, we're closing." And then we had about a year or so of wandering around before we settled at the Fort Point Arts Community at Assemblage Gallery, which will be there. We'll be there again someday. I hope we all will be. But for now, I'm all glad you're here tonight. I'm all glad you're here and excited to hear our feature. And I'm going to unmute. And I know sometimes the applause and the finger snaps all sound like crap when it comes out at the end, but I want you to make an effort for Jamilla VanDyke-Bailey. Give her a round of applause right now for everyone unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have posted this before and I will post it again. Jamilla has a book available and I posted on the Zoom group chat. So if you have not seen it on Facebook, if you have not seen it on my blog or the Stone Soup blog, you can get this in two variations. One is the actual print book, which I have. The other is the PDF download. So I urge you to grab that book if you haven't not already. I already posted links to her Venmo name, her username for Venmo and Cash App. We do pass the hat for Stone Soup normally, and I'd like to create a Venmo hat or whatever Cash App you want to use in order to support the poets moving forward. This is for those of you who are not able to do it because you're out of work, I understand. But for those of you who can spare $2 or $3, I hope you do so. But regardless, I'm very glad for all your voices and for all your ears. I'm glad for anyone who's part of our feature's entourage who just came to listen. For those, I know a lot of you from past Zoom meets, and some of you have already called me or texted me ahead saying you want to read. But for those of you who are here for the first time and you'd be interested in reading something or speaking something, please raise your hand and let me know. You can do a raise hand app. If you go to the little ellipses, if you scroll over your window, there's an ellipses and you can, I believe, raise your hand that way. And I know, David, I know you're going to be reading. Come on. Anyway, come on. I said people were here for the first time, not the 21st. Anyway, I'm going to mute all, and I'm allowing participants to unmute themselves as I go through our open mic list for tonight to get things started. I'm excited for this new chapter of Stone Soup, and I'm excited to introduce our first person on the open mic. She was the first one here, aside from myself. She even beat Patricia. That surprised me. So, sorry, Patricia, you're not the number one today, but Mary Jennings, you are. So, Mary, if you're willing to start first, by all means, unmute yourself, and let's have a go at it.
Okay. Okay. Useless is self-pity. When you walk upon the wire on your hands, never turn hesitant, though you bristle at the name of the terrorist with the same family tie, who called you a burden and left you bone dry. O maiden, when you measure thyself into bondage, you will only end up in bandages. Cleaning to please and failing to be pleasurable, you are totally mired in tortured thoughts. Many a would-be butterfly has been eaten alive and taken a pratfall into oblivion. Cruel are the ways of the wily wizard who gave you a blister when you wished for bliss. He didn't hear you right. You felt obliged to take what he offered. Useless is self-pity. Henceforth, take precaution. Trust the true spirit of self-reliance. It can save you further pain and trials. Thank you.
I give a chance for anyone to talk
Thank you.
And unmute all if you to send praises,
Thank you.
approval,
Hey, bravo, bravo.
Bravo.
throw underwear at the screen, whatever you like. Okay, so I'm doing my best to get everyone in accordance to the order in which they came in. It's going to be a little arbitrary, but what the hell? And more people are coming in, which makes me very glad. And again, to those people who are coming in, I'm going to assume, I might ask some people, especially if I recognize them, but if this is your first time here ever and you want to read, definitely put up the raised hand icon and let me know. Other people, if you bring your own background, your own JPEG background in the back of you, I'm going to assume you want to read. It's all about presentation.
Put on a
Anyway.
mask. Put on a mask. Put on a mask and go get it.
Whoops. Going to mute all again. I'm going to introduce the next person on the open mic, and that would be Mr. Ethan Mackler. I believe you were the first or third here. Ethan Mackler is the man I call the Pulse of Stone Soup. He is primarily a musician, and he has performed alongside several features and been part of many a duo and group. So we're very glad to have him here tonight, and I'm just going to give it over to Ethan right now, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, so for this tonight, I would like to do an accompaniment to a recording of the late Carl Sagan, who did a little monologue called Pale Blue Dot.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you've ever heard of, every being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization. Every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust, suspended in the sunlight. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the military masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a luminous speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. there's nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to be more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the things we've done, the only home we've ever known.
Could you hear that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ethan.
Thank you.
And
Hey.
hopefully we'll be back again next week with another selection. He's been doing a lot of stuff to poet recordings, including I think Jack Powers for the 46th anniversary spectacular we had back in May. Moving on, I tried to get everyone in accordance to when they came, but I was probably a little more arbitrary than that. But don't worry, I see all 20 of you right now at once. I'm making sure I have all of you. Let's welcome up next one of our regulars, Mr. David Miller.
Hey. Hey, everybody. I'm going to read a poem by Tracy K. Smith. Wow. And this isn't part of the poem, but my saying wow, but it just started pouring rain outside. Anyway, no kidding, by Tracy K. Smith, and the poem is titled An Old Story. We were made to understand it would be terrible. Every small want, every niggling urge, every hate swollen to a kind of epic wind. Livid the land and ravaged like a rageful dream. The worst in us having taken over and broken the rest utterly down. A long age passed. When at last we knew how little would survive us, how little we had mended or built that was not now lost, something large and old awoke. And then our singing brought on a different manner of weather. Then animals long believed gone crept down from trees. We took new stock of one another. We wept to be reminded of such color. Tracy K. Smith.
Oh, wow.
Thank you, David.
Yes.
And she wasn't first on the open mic today, but she is the happy number 4. And let me mute all again. And Patricia, you can unmute yourself. Patricia Kerrigan, all the way from New York, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Glad I was able to get it. Yeah. Short poem. Blue and Green, trumpet by Miles Davis. 1. Life moves from code orange to red. Malevolence, a side effect of governmental discord. The 21st century burns after fires cease. 2. I walk past boarded up stores and vacant streets, see rainbows slip into the void, but blue and green step back, become allies. Blue and green, green and blue. 3. Miles Davis plays his trumpet. My speculations are put to rest. Colors of the sky mellow after dusk. I align with blue and green. Thank
Hey.
you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yeah.
Up next.
Thank you.
Up next, we have one of our telephone callers. She's not joined us by video, but she is on the phone. And if for anyone who might know someone who doesn't have a computer but would still like to hear the poetry, let me know. and I can at least send the telephone information to you via email. Our first telephone contributor is Miss Nancy Dodson. Nancy, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
A gasp of hope. Are you the last one to tell the tale of righteousness according to the Lord? So many people go their way according to their ungodly manner. It is great fortitude to hear of goodness of the ruler, nothing lacking for the people's favor. November and the test of the vote come true. Heaven help thy righteousness, Lord. Help him win. Hallelujah.
Good job.
Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. good to hear you, Nancy.
Much appreciated, Nancy. We're going to bring you, we're going to unmute all again and bring us to our next participant. He's definitely going to be a future feature. It's he's featured at Stone Soup before when we were live. And it's great that he's returned to the fold via this method. I want to welcome up. You might unmute yourself, sir, Mr. Eric Tate.
Thank you, Chad. When childhood experiences prepare one for adulthood. My mom, who was raised in a volatile household by a mother who believed children should be seen and not heard, now has to live out the rest of her days in a facility where the nurses and aides either ignore her or tell her to shut up whenever she tries to speak to them. But she doesn't put up a fuss, doesn't say anything when the pills she gets don't look the same as usual. She really doesn't know what she's being given from one day to the next because she's afraid to ask. It's not her place to question. She grew up in a time when, unless she accepted that what she was told was all she needed to know, she could have ended up on the wrong side of a beating. Indeed, sometimes blind faith couldn't save her from her fate. I think about this when I visit Mom and see the nasty abrasions on her wrists and arms. When I ask her about them, she assures me, although the nurse was a bit heavy-handed, she meant no harm. The injuries resulted entirely from accidents. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chad trying to talk again?
I know, I'm like Japanese subtitles here. I didn't need it every time I forget. It's funny, I can unmute all, but I can't unmute myself along with it. So ridiculous. Anyway, I love the people listening tonight. Thank you all. Thank you so much, Eric. Our next person on the open mic is going to be Mr. Gentleman Ed Galt.
Thank you. This one is called Employee File. I am the dossier they keep on you at work. It's my job to keep all the information that is relevant. Your resume and cover letter, your W-2, medical coverage info. Those are the minimum requirements. Then there are your evaluations and other statements made about you by the director and every other supervisor that you've ever had. There are the letters written about you by the customers themselves, as well as what your coworkers may have written. Finally, there is whatever note that you wrote to the supervisor on any given issue at any given time. They wrote in their evaluations of you that you were demanding and argumentative. You might have been asking for a modest cost of a living increase or simply explaining your side of a story. I don't know. I know only what is submitted. That is what I show to whomever consults me. Whether it's your next supervisor or your next employer, I will follow you. Believe it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, all too true.
Tell me about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galt. That was loud. And coming up next, she's been a astute regular for many years, and she's a contributor to a lot of the literary journals around Boston: Wilderness House, Literary Review, Oddball Magazine, and it's a pleasure to have her read with us tonight. You might have to unmute yourself, madam. Let's welcome up Shannon O'Connor.
Hello. Hello. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote very recently. It's about life right now. It's called Elements of a Clogged Brain. I've never been anywhere except the places I've been. Now I never go anywhere. I used to be the girl who never went outside, but I got over that. I started going out a lot. Then it became that if I didn't leave, the walls would close in on me, leaving me trapped like a fly in a spider web, suffocating, tangling my wings until I died a painful death. These are different days. Now I can't go anywhere, and I'm fine with that. I have things to do to fill the time. I write, I read, I play my tin whistle, Spanish lessons on the phone, getting through each day. I fear leaving the house to go to work. My stomach is a bowling ball, heavier than an anchor, weighing me down, wishing I didn't have to face the world for fear of illness. I dream the black squirrel that lives near me is my cat reincarnated. It entertains me to imagine the past is the future, and we're here in the middle, not knowing which way to dance or how to react to our dance instructor. I'll blow the rain a kiss because it's the closest I can get now to something real. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And up next, I think this isn't her first time here with us, but it is her first time reading, if I'm not mistaken. Let's welcome up next, Miss Jane Spoken Word.
Hey, everybody. I would like to do a poem that I wrote on the day that I met Cecil Taylor. It was the beginning of a long and beautiful friendship. So this piece is called Dragonflies. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Dragonflies dancing dreams of forgotten ancestors. Painting Manhattan skies with brick and glass and neon cells. Abstractions in captured flight past skyscrapers that flash blue and red, hot spotlight beams, piano strings, bass come and drum, sway the trees, lift the leaves, pass through me on their journey to foreverness, as exquisitely as dragonflies. Open your eyes. I spent the day with neon dragonflies, playing tag with the sun and the sky, serenaded by the splendid, invited to the dance. I spent the evening at a nobleman's digs and raptured in his trance. Come sit at the feet of the maestro. Take a ride on his comet in flight. All will be heard, and all will be cherished, and all will surrender to his night. Bottles of bubbles fill time in a glass, flowing vev into memories that smile. Whispered words breathe life to a past. Chain-smoking Indians all the while. 'Tis the evildoer who'll make you cry, and the dragon lady with all her lies, and mean devils you just had to love, and music dreamt from a satin glove of starlit nights, on-stage fights, and lovely ones that broke his heart, and perfect days that fell apart, and coded names that you never knew, and oh, so many Winnie the Pooh, Pooh, Pooh. Whispered words poured out into speech, shaded by time and reflections reach. Ancestors arise from deep within, shadows of places you've never been. So come sit at the feet of the maestro. Take a ride on this comet in flight. And all will be heard, and all will be cherished, and all will surrender to Cecil Taylor's night. Peace.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. That was a great debut. Hope you come back for more.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And we had someone new, so now I'm going to bring back one of our stalwarts. I hope he's still here. Oh, here he is. It's actually right next to my head as I'm speaking this. Some of you just joining on, I don't recognize you right away because some of you have already confirmed on Facebook because you're connected to me as friends, whether you're reading or not. But as of today, I consider you all my friends. So I might ask you individually if you're reading, or I might try and text you. So watch your chat. Watch your chat box, or if I don't hear from you, I just might ask you outright. But I hope everyone reads tonight, and if not, I hope everyone's enjoying what they're hearing tonight. So on that note, I'm going to bring it back to one of our stalwart regulars, one of the first people to participate on the Zoom open mic for Stone Soup, Dyer, and everything else. Let's welcome up Mr. Eric Nelson.
Hello. This is a work in progress. I'm not sure whether I succeeded in saying what I was trying to say, but it's about history, and it's about the future, and it's about where are we now? Today and many years past, patterns repeat. In these days when we are not allowed to go outside and gather together much, I read. I'm reading aloud with my father over video link. And one of the books we read together is A Child's History of England by Charles Dickens. A flawed book, trying to squeeze too many centuries into too few pages and doing a sloppy job. But with many tales touched on but not fully told. So we need the occasional side trip to Wikipedia and whatever. Although it is called A History of England, it has a few side trips to Scotland. And in one of these chapters, it mentions Claverhouse, who was sent by Charles II to make war on the Covenanters, whose outdoor religious meetings, which were called conventicles, were considered seditious, as any unsanctioned religious gathering was by law an illegal gathering. And I say to myself, wait a minute, I've heard that name. There was a song. To the lairds of convention, 'twas Claverhouse who spoke, and the chorus was Follow the Bonnet of Bonnie Dundee. Further research, and read that this is John Graham of Claverhouse, known as the first Viscount of Dundee, and one of the same person from the song to the page of the book. And the stirring song I remember from reading in my childhood, first on the pages of the annotated Alice, because it was one of Lewis Carroll's rhymes, borrowed a tune from it. The song somehow has gotten less fun. If this is the person who made War on the Dissidents, he is less enjoyable than I thought when I was simply hearing the song many years ago. And it's a funny echo. We're again living in a time when large gatherings are banned for different reasons. And the power to make or break that can be politicized. Different churches are having different responses to the pandemic and whether they can have congregations. And people have on the internet have noticed the ironies, saying, and I quote, "So in conclusion, the Pope says you can worship God at home just fine and don't need the priest as an intercessor in these trying times. And the evangelical Protestants have come out against the priesthood of the believer and say church service is necessary to the faith. Okay then." Pointing that up because it's a reversal of roles from what it was a long time ago, of course. And as colleges reunite, one article says, many colleges will mandate that students wear face coverings, practice social distancing, and not hold any large gatherings this fall. One administrator said, "I fear we are asking students to do something impossible." The Queen says in her speech, "We will meet again." And somehow I find that good for morale. Thank you very much.
Very good.
And up next, as I mute everyone again. And here we go. And coming up next, I'm hoping to have her published in Oddball magazine this coming Monday. No pressure, but we've seen her on the open mic here before and a host of other groups and sites and other Zoom readings. And let's welcome up to Xenia Pinchback.
Ah, yeah. Xenia, woo! Good to meet ya.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Hi, James.
Hey. Hey.
So I'm going to do a work in progress. So it's literally in progress. As you can see, it's like marked up. So, praise song for the shut-in. Just the late night ring of the telephone signaled Dad was calling. Backstage at whatever out-of-town gig his band was playing, to sing his two favorite girls, Mama and Me, to sleep. Electric bass and lead singer's alto vibrating across the miles. Since I sat perched on his shoulders to avoid my black suede Mary Janes sinking into rain puddles on our walk home from school, past Bruno's chili dog stand and the old Sears department store. This together, they folded me and my brother into hammocks made from fresh off the line fitted sheets and swung us back and forth till laughter took away our breath. This red leather diary with gold lock wedged between my brass headboard and wall, $5 drugstore musk oil scenting its gilded pages, bergamot, lavender, and my secrets folded inside. Since inking 5-page love letters in Coach Castille's third period American history class, turned a 16-year-old boy's gold brown skin pink with lust. Since the flutter of life in my still flat belly turned my body feral, incubator. A short 6 months after a first pregnancy ended in fetal death. Since I saw it etched on stationery the same as my grandmother's and her mother's, and called love by her name, Elizabeth. Since a husband, jealous of that baby love, decided adoration is second only to bringing ruin to that which a wife loves most. Since my Honda station wagon carried computer, bed linens, and toddler the long night into Omaha as if spat from the pitch dark mouth of the Rocky Mountains, speck of despair onto the vastness of the plains. Since I turned into stone, fashioned myself an impervious skin, each grotesque thing carried too long, staged a revolt, took up arms against me, fermenting my blood to sludge, since my body became a geography to flee. Promised land just beyond the four corners of this sickbed. Since I learned beauty is treacherous in its desire to leave us. Each kindness a small path drawn to the mountain, where again I can sit or stand, palms open to a lemon yellow sky. Thank you.
Awesome. Nice. Nice.
Thank you so much, and come back again. And next up, he has been. I apologize for anyone who's joining in by phone because this man's humor comes across as visual sometimes, but he's got a lot to offer for anyone listening or watching. We're going to bring it up to Mr. Bill Lewis. You may have to unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Chadford. It is such a pleasure to be here. Hello,
Yes,
everybody.
Mr. Smiley.
Yeah,
Yes, happy.
exactly. Be happy while you can.
That's right.
It's hot, you know? I mean, that's my home in the background. That's where I lived. That was hot. Woohoo! So I was up in the mountains here in Massachusetts, and it was warm, and sitting under the trees, under the pine trees and everything, I got attacked by nature. Sap. Sap thuds, it doesn't splash. Water wants to absorb, not sap. Sap falls from trees, sap sticks. Sap smells like pine tree on my arm. On my arm hair it sits. It doesn't flow, it creeps, it engages, it engulfs. It doesn't want to leave, it doesn't dry. Sap is forever. The sun-baked valley sends hot winds up the hills. Trees bend and shake and branches fall. But in the distance, yes, trees can kill, but not sap. Sap likes me. Sap loves my pretty hair. Sap wouldn't want to move in. Sap wants to stay. Sap is forever.
Nice. Yeah. Gorgeous.
Who do we have next? I know who we have next. We have the former poet populist, or like as I like to call her, the poet populist emeritus of Cambridge, Massachusetts. He wants to start sending happy birthday wishes her way. Her birthday is tomorrow, and just yesterday was the birthday of her partner, Dexter Roberts, also a great poet. So this gives me a great pleasure to have her on here tonight. Let's welcome up. I hope she's available. Miss Tony B.
Hi. Tony. Hey. Jamilla VanDyke. Mrs. M.R.S. VanDyke.
Hey, didn't want to give it all away today. No, not yet.
I've been needing to talk to Jamilla. Okay. Hey, I'm just a poet. I have too much to say. I hope everyone's been well and safe in the double pandemics. You know, one we were already dealing with. This is part of my poem, I guess. So Minnesota is a Native American word. Right now in our country, they're taking down all of these. This is part of the poem. They're taking down all of these statues. I wish they would actually keep them up. I have a poem about that. Mm-hmm. And then because erasure is interesting. So speaking of erasure,
I wanted to actually read this poem called Fortune's Bones by Marilyn Nelson is so deep. If you get a chance, please read anything by Marilyn Nelson. But literally, Fortune's Bones, Fortune is a Black slave from Connecticut. He worked for years for some family. He died probably by broken neck. They think maybe it was a whip. Anyway, they used his bones. All of the doctors for the next 150 years used his bones in order to study. Erasure is very interesting. The family owned the wife, the family owned the kids. Y'all know how it was. So anyway, I just want to read this poem by Marilyn Nelson. It's called Dinah's Lament. And Dinah seems to be Fortune's wife. So the bones were kept in the attic where the people would go and study the bones and be great American doctors today. Dinah's Lament. Miss Lydia doesn't clean the doctor's room. She said she can't go in that room. She's scared. She make me take the dust rag and the broom and clean around my husband hanging there. Since she seen Fortune head in that big pot, Miss Lydia say that room make her feel ill. Sick with the thought of boiling human broth. I wonder how she think it make me feel. To dust the hands, what used to stroke my breast. To dust the arms, what hold me when I cried. To dust where his soft lips were and his chest. What curved its warm against my back at night. Through every season, sun up to starlight, I heft, scrub, knead. One Black woman alone, except for my children. The world's so white. Nobody know my pain but Fortune's bones. Marilyn Nelson.
Hey.
Please get
Boy.
Wonderful.
Damn.
Perfect.
It's the same thing that's happening today, y'all.
Yeah.
Working day, Tony.
The callousness, you know?
Thank you so much. I hear someone's TV in the background, so I'm just muting all again. Tony, thank you so much, and hope. Whoops, you might have to unmute yourself again, Tony, if you have something else to say. Sorry, but that was fantastic. And we're going next. We're getting to the shadier areas of the reading where I'm not sure if people who are signed up here are going to be reading or not. So I'm going to call out a few names, and you don't have to be all panicking and go, ah! You know, just let me know that you're not reading, and we'll leave. We'll just skip on to the next person. There's a Benjamin in the audience who I don't recognize. Benjamin, are you reading tonight, or are you just here for to be an audience member? Whoops, you're muted. Okay, now you're not.
Yeah. I thought I was unmuting. I was muting. Yeah, why don't I just listen this time, and I'll maybe I'll read the next time then.
So you're not signed up to read?
No, I can't access chat actually, but yeah, it's disabled. But anyway, no, I'm not signed up. No.
Okay, if you change your mind, let me know. Just so you know, your mic is coming in. It might be for the best tonight because your mic's coming in like a little garbled, and I had the same problem myself.
Oh.
And I had to get a silver mic. Might have to just work on something. But if you're not reading tonight, we're just glad that you can listen and you can hear clearly, because that's what matters. And we'll see you next time, Nate.
Yeah, probably if I use this mic, it would be better.
Yeah, that's a lot better. So
Yeah.
maybe next time you can read. That sounds
Next
great.
time I'll be prepared. Yeah.
Sounds better than my mic. Holy shit! Oh yeah, I need that device. Okay, so we're going with someone who I definitely know is reading, and she's been reading very, very patiently. And thanks to everyone who is still joining tonight. I am very excited tonight. You're all my new friends. Please keep up with Stone Soup. If you are friends of the feature, please take her recommendations and join Stone Soup. We do provide updates for calls for submissions. future readings. We meet every Wednesday from 7 to 9. And Jamilla is the first feature online that we've had so far. That's actually in the history of Stone Soup in 49 years, which is, can't think of anyone better to start with. We are very excited for that. We're going to have many more, and if you're interested in reading, I might call on your name, so don't get scared. If the answer is no, then it's no. So I'm all excited that you're here. And Stone Soup, its Facebook page does provide a lot of information. So if you're a secret writer, an immersion writer, we'd love to have you. We work with Oddball Magazine at oddballmagazine.com. We are publishing material on the theme of Black Lives Matter every Monday. And every 2 weeks, we are doing poems on the subject of the pandemic. If you go to oddballmagazine.com, you guys see a flurry of great work that came up this week. And there is much, much more to come. And we'd love to have you part of it. But now moving on to someone who is no stranger to Stone Soup and no stranger to our open mic and to even to the Zoom meetings. She's been recovering due to a physical injury, but we have been able to have her contact by phone. And it's great to have her tonight, and we're going to unmute her. This is the woman I love to call Our Lady Queen of Stone Soup. If we had a regular Stone Soup event that uncurtailed by the pandemic, she would have been our feature. Let's welcome up Carol Weston.
1934. I am alone in my bed with my finger in the tunnel next to my tinkle spot. Am I part of my mother? Yet I am a rump sprinkled with talcum powder, a smile in a playpen. My playpen is my theater, where I get my father to laugh.
Phew. Whoa.
Woo!
Yes.
Yay, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. That's what I'm talking about. And
Great, Carol.
I'm going to unmute all again, and I'm going to ask those of you who have been listening so far. Some of you have joined late. Some of you have joined early and I never saw before. I'm just going to ask if you're interested in reading. It saves the time of having to go through the chat, which not everyone can access easily, especially if you're joining by phone. So I'm just going to go in the order in which I see you. No favorites being picked. Natasha, are you interested in reading tonight?
Nope, just listening today. Thank you, though.
Thank you. And next time, we had some issues, which I'm equally grateful that everyone signed in early, because we did have issues with the phone and getting Carol Weston connected. And we had some issues with people joining out. The tip for anyone doing Zoom calls, once you get, they're going to make it mandatory, I think, to have a waiting room. But once you get on, don't use the waiting room. Dismantle it, because it seems to be hindering people from coming in if you're not using a computer, or if you're using, sometimes even if you're using an iPad or a phone. So it's very irritating. Just going to go down. Kim and Rena, are you interested in reading, or are you just listening tonight?
No, I'm just an audience member tonight. Thank you.
Okay, I'm assuming the same is true of you, Rena?
I'm just listening as well.
Okay, and just a couple more to go. Victoria, otherwise known as Victoria's iPhone. Are you listening or participating tonight in the open mic?
I'm just listening tonight.
Okay, and the final two to talk to, Shannon Hogan and Paula Grillo. Are you reading tonight or just listening?
Just listening.
And I'm listening too. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, the real final person is the last person to join in. Daisy, are you reading tonight?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, thank you all so much. So I will go to the person who is the official closer of this open mic. And again, thank you guys very much. This has been a very enjoyable night. It can be like this every week for the rest of the pandemic. It can be like this once we reconvene. All we need is you. So to close things off, I mentioned Oddball Magazine before. I mentioned Stone Soup before. Our person who will be closing us off before the feature tonight is a Stone Soup regular who has featured numerous times. When we return, he's going to do his own performance theater performance based on Edgar Allan Poe's The Maelstrom. He is also a contributor to Oddball Magazine at oddballmagazine.com. His column, It's All One Thing, is a blend of poetry, songs, and storytelling, and of course political commentary. And it it publishes every Thursday morning without fail at 11 o'clock, including tomorrow. And I am very glad that he is here to close us out. Still, in light of the pandemic, let's welcome up Mr. James Van Loy.
Hi. So I have another lugubrious poem here. And this is called Another Lugubrious Poem. In high school, my guidance counselor told me that my aptitude test said I should be an accountant. By that time, I'd already spent 8 years dreaming of being a writer, something beyond my experience, so that I was certain it was sacrilege to put anything actually down on paper for fear I'd find out I wasn't one of the elite elect. Somehow, summoned by fate to this holy sacrosanct veritas vocation. So I knew those goofy tests with their multiple choice questions about would you rather or rather not do A, B, C, D, or would you just please, do something that would at least, indeed, very least, not cause trouble. And I certainly did not want to cause anybody any trouble at all. So tonight, as I'm doing the lobby list at the shoulder, one of the men who I allowed to stay in there because he has a cold, and because he never asked before to stay there, and because just last week he shared his personal Vietnam, not just story, but multiple stories, after we discovered we were both at that asshole of the world, Fort Gordon, Georgia in '67, says to me, I saw some of Schindler's List last night at another shelter, and this whole situation we're in is sort of like it, don't you think? Ha, 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 ha. To which I had to admit he had a point. As I stood there, list in hand, realizing I was all too much an accountant, quite good at taking lists and sorting people into those who stay and those who go.
I didn't know that one.
And let me just sing a brief song here.
Yes, music.
Oh. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. Starlight and dewdrop are waiting for thee. Sounds of the rude world heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight, have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, queen of my song, list while I woo thee with soft melody. Gone are the cares of life's busy throng. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me. Beautiful dreamer, awake unto me.
Woohoo!
Oh, I love it every time. I love it.
Aww.
Wonderful.
Thank you all very, very much. And thank you, James, for closing out the open mic. I'm going to mute everyone except for Jamilla, and I'm excited to introduce her. Just a couple of notices if there's anyone who's interested in coming back that's been here for the first time. stonesouppoetry.blogspot.com has all the information of our future features. The feature for next week, though she hasn't been posted up yet, is going to be Liza Zayas, who is a self-confessed househead, a musician, spoken word artist. She is also a contributor to Oddball Magazine. Her column also is featured every Thursday, this time only at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, The Underground Garden. She is a many things: musician, spoken word artist, poet, mother, storyteller, and she has been on fire since coming back from her hiatus to contribute to Oddball. And she has enough of a set to do more than 20 minutes next week. And we're glad to have her back. And I'm going to be announcing more features as the summer and more likely the fall goes on for our online lineup. Thanks to everyone who has made Stone Soup's new life online something for me to look forward to, and hopefully something that you all look forward to as well. And now I'm going to do the formal greeting for our feature tonight, Jamilla VanDyke-Bailey. I think I first met her when she was working on the sadly short-lived zine called Elephant. I think I met her face-to-face during the release party of the 3rd issue. I was part of the online issue, but not the print, but I still have the print issue today. Since then, I've seen her go from strength to strength. She featured at Stone Soup Poetry, I think at least twice, as I most noted before, during the final feature we had the final night at our time at Brewer on the Grid, a short-lived coffee shop, part of a larger Worcester chain in Cambridge that couldn't make its home there, which was so bad, which is too bad, because if based on Jamilla's feature there, I would have loved having shows there forever. It was a great environment and a great feature for poets. This is we're making this as great a feature for poets. I appreciate all your contributions for that. But Jamilla has gone through some many changes. Most notably, she has had a child and she has just been married. So people, look at the chat, look at her Facebook page, and if you don't have a Venmo account, I suggest you get one, because it's been incredible for me as someone who has to share the rent with someone. But on another level, it's good not only getting paid by other people, but also paying other people for their services. And you can see, if you go into the chat, I put down her name, which is used for Cash App, Venmo, and a couple other apps. And there's also a link to the website where you can publish both an online version of her book and the print version of her book. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go to the bio. Again, Jamilla VanDyke-Bailey is an educated Black feminist, millennial from Boston, Massachusetts. As a writer, she uses trauma and humor to carve out space for the ignored and amplify the voice of the silenced. She has had work published in the Southampton Review, Kin Literary Journal, Oddball Magazine, amongst others. And recently, she has self-published a chapbook, Then We Have Been, which she describes as a poetic reckoning with her mental illness and pregnancy. And it can be ordered at her upon request on Instagram and via the link I gave you all. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to mute everyone for a brief second. So put your hands together 20, 30 times for Jamilla. That's more like it. Right next to the microphone. Get the hands there. Okay.
Yeah, Jamilla.
Okay, that's enough. Jamilla, you're up, and welcome. You'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi. So I'm gonna read some pieces from the Then We Have Been collection that I recently published, but I'm going to start each little chunk with something that's been on my mind. It has nothing to do with the poetry. It's just something that's been on my mind. The first thing I'm going to say is I challenge everyone to look into the life and death of Kendrick Johnson. He was found rolled up in a gym mat years ago. I wrote about it when I was in college. And I want to say Kendrick Johnson did not kill himself and then roll himself into a mat. Please look into it. Please, your voices and your attention will hopefully lead to the GBI reopening the case. So that's the first statement I want to make. And now I'm going to get into some very awkward poetry. And for my grandmother—
No hook humility. No hook humility allowed.
Okay. Nana, I'm sorry. Mommy, my bad. All right. 5:08 a.m. Through kaleidoscope eyes, I watch myself carefully planting my toes in dusty white water. My souls have slept on this dank water's edge before and before, and yet they still splinter as across the shore I watch my spine hunch, nails receiving rain, eyes drowning themselves dry. Again, I have decided to love him until I felt disgusted with the sound of my breath. I nurtured this disease, a hunger to singe pain without a purpose into my barren body. I never even shouted or wailed or cried out loud. I'm afraid that healing means loneliness, that I was made to wallow and to wade. I love those who live to carve me away, for I want a reason to want to die. I could see people clapping, but I can't hear you, so sorry if I'm awkward. Next poem. The walls have stained peach from the heavy sounds of my cries. I don't know what triggered me this time. It could be the weight of the air on my skin, raw from the curdled tattoo ink, or the way the word eulogy nestles into the bedbugs lining my thick tongue. I bury my palms into the front of my kneecaps and whisper, I hope this is not the highlight of my life. But somehow, I know it is. I try to raise a sense of pride where my shame is etched, make it like wet braille so I could really know myself. I've been warred and whored and slaughtered, trying to make myself unforgivable and my body unlovable and my soul unworthy of the blackness and mercy. I'm just looking for a way out of here. This room made of salt, stories, and hunger, looking to laugh myself out of myself, find some ivory to carry instead of disappointment, anything to reach you and touch you without falling into tears, looking to forgive myself in the face I wear in the opinions of others, looking to deal with the residue of destruction between my legs, the place I dismantled into a lost home for you. I hope you're not the only love I have. Bailey, you can clap because no one, I can't hear anyone else, so I don't know when to stop.
I unmute people, but I'll tell people
Okay.
now that jazz fingers and jazz hands are encouraged.
Yeah. Also, if you hear clapping, my little sister's like right next to me. Okay. I'm sorry, I know that this will hurt you, but I was running out of options and excuses and moments. I don't know what else to do, and I was so tired of not knowing what else to do. I will always love you. Virginia Woolf once wrote, no one could ever be as happy as we were, and her words are true now and here. I didn't want a musicless ending, so I emailed you a soundtrack for this very occasion. It took me months of planning. It just might be my best work yet. Do you think forgiveness is real? And if so, can you spare some for me to waste on my body? This body has caused harm and been harmed. I asked God for a sign and you ignored all of my texts. I asked God for faith and heard nothing but my own sighs. I need this to be over quickly and filled with pain, but somehow I have found the slowest shortcut through all of the burning bushes and broken coals that I could find. I don't know why, but maybe you do. You should have loved me like I wrote about in the poems I felt I owed you. I'm too afraid to daydream aloud about this next chapter. You gave me a hurt that is too deep to heal from, even though you said you couldn't. And I'm sorry. I know that this will hurt you, but I was running out of options and excuses and moments. I didn't know what else to do, and I was so tired of not knowing what else to do, other than always loving you. Thanks, Bailey. Thank you.
Yes.
So one other, again, taking the little side, one other thing I want to say is I really hope everyone keeps pushing for, I know she kind of got lost in the flow, but keep pushing for justice for Breonna Taylor. The people who murdered her in her home have been fired, but they have not been arrested. They have not been charged. They have not been found guilty. So please just keep that in mind. I also want to say one of the people who just got fired recently was fired because he fired blindly into the apartment. He was outside the apartment and shot in. So please promote, keep in mind, discuss justice for Breonna Taylor by calling the Attorney General. You can look this up, 502-696-5300. Because I understand that, you know, racist people and prejudiced people think that Black people are dangerous, but there's no way a woman who's sleeping in her bed at night is dangerous. Please, just in general, stop killing us.
Hey.
So the next switch is to, I'm gonna switch back to, all right, 8:33 p.m. Friday nights turn into Sunday afternoons, and your hands throughout me convince me to pray harder and praise louder. I love you on purpose. Lay your head on my lap and I'll smother you in need until blessings drown out this depression. Kneel before God in used white clothes. Forgive yourself for letting others betray you and heal those that have hurt you. 9:07 a.m. I am dying, a stone suffocating in grass, nervous at the sight of my own dim overcast. I speak a feast spells to turn into tar, a magic that I mistook for new grime. I need self-love from those who broke me down. One ashen morning, strange fruit guided my quarter note steps forward. Unleash me from bondage and death to bite out the tongue of white snakes whose eyes speak in arsenic. Tell God to dance with me, a too quick footwork. Agbadza on rusting shackles. Free me, free us, and show us homeward. There's no more tears dense with blood and whipping cracks. We now know the truth and can give birth to a world. I want to live alone with you in awe. Thanks. I think that was to my husband.
Hey.
I am afraid that Morrison's my son. Okay. I am afraid that Morrison, like me, has been damned to dream of dying even in their happiest moments, even as they rest above lilac and teal crib sheets, even as they thumb loose the buttonholes of their lover's silk jeans, even as that human graveyard they trap themselves inside of patches up the shards of glass and throws away the rips and tears that were left there. I had this dream that I was riding on the back of a cactus-tongued elephant. My ankles were dangling and I was so happy because I just loved elephants, but my eyes were sunken like cheekbones and I was dripping sadness mercilessly. What if Morrison is imaged after me, his nappy-headed mother with skin stained from muddy tears, me, full of fury and ruptured eardrums, me, alive and still holding a vigil for my bloody self. I shouldn't have mouthed for a Black child. Your father, so this is again to my son, your father hates hearing about death, but it's a home I have to sit and stew in. These walls were built from my pregnancy test, stacked like church catacombs, moldy with piss, reminders of life and the death of it. Your father, a Christian, knows of a God who has repeatedly exiled me, a daughter of Cain, a body to break, and so I wipe myself expecting blood, a marker of my place in constant black. What have I done besides suffer? Why is God now answering my prayers, if not to strip me of you when I finally trust your father to teach me how to smile? I don't want to lose you, and so I pray that you lose me. In my hospital bag, I'll place a will sewn shut by threads of Cain's hair, giving all I have to you with love.
Those were slamming. Very good. Totally enjoyed.
Thank you.
Slamming.
Thank you. It is Christmas Eve and I am alone, my first major holiday in a hush that tastes a lot like Captain Crunch and milk. I told your father I was fine, a lie, to get him off the phone so I could sit in my size like I am right here and now. I can't hear or smell the moon through all this rain and it humbles me, places me in my own head, a library of thoughts I have shelved from fear of my being right. I am not ready to be a mother. I have no heirlooms but trauma and the inability to carry my black ovaries without stumbling in a haze. You will see right through me years later when your therapist leads you to a new truth. I was alone on Christmas Eve because I am not ready to be your mother. So a little bit about my anxiety around the pregnancy is that Black women are, I think, 4 times or 5 times more likely to die during childbirth. And I was like, oh no, that's not going to happen to me. Like I was so anxious and people were like, Jamilla, you'll be fine. And then I almost died during childbirth. And I was like, see, told you.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm fine. But it's very scary deciding to take on and create another life if you're able to. And it's also very scary because at one point in my pregnancy, I looked to my now husband and I thought to myself, he's going to be Black. And I don't know when I have to sit him down and say, like, hey, here's what the world is going to give you. And here's what you can bring to the world. And I was like, well, I have some time. And then, of course, all this awful stuff happened. But it's just very, very difficult. But every day I look at him and he smiles and then pees on me. It's more than worth it. 3:45 p.m. I want to love you and give you the things my father stole from my mother, but so much better. You could have your fill and then some. You could drink and eat from my worn out ribs, tear ducts, and weak wrists. This is my best tradition. I'm building a home with the bones that ache to enjoy my own faith and love. This is the Black love that women must submit to, give into, pray for, and to drown in. This love made of sharp edges and trap doors brings women to the floorboards, forgetting that they are godly, godless, and a god. 8:29 p.m. Pray harder and praise louder until blessings drown out this depression and heal everyone who hurts. 8:15 a.m. The prayer for the desert is a calm rainfall, not the flood we thought to dance, to cry, and to beg for. In healing, there is no want, no dream, no hope. There is just a gray, cancerous need. Next poem. Oh, thank you. Yeah. What did you expect to find? Okay, I just want to make it clear. These are not to my son. These are to like exes and other like men. Like I don't want people to be like, ugh, you're gross. They're not to my son. Those poems are done, okay? Just a clear separation because, all right. What did you expect to find inside of me? A whisper or sleepy echo of the woman you needed your mother to be? Instead, you found me, a skeleton of broken nerves, a fistful of flint. I tried to love you diligently still. I made a ritual out of you and had the audacity to think I could coerce you into the gladness I can't find outside of the bodies of me. I loved you on purpose, and you had me so petrified and allergic to myself. The hardest part of loving you isn't the brittle drought or the long sleeve phantom. It's the fact that you have no problem with killing me, but you still won't let me die. What did you need to find inside of me? Salvation, solitude, some sign that your mother should have loved you back? Well, all I have is a deep and dead loving.
Hi, Mila.
Your poetry is just off the hook, woman. Just really touching. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have this quirk where I'd repeatedly bow at the pelvis to apologize for the damage I am and the damage I cause. But I wouldn't even try to repurpose myself into anyone else. Instead, I would cry, fuck, and tongue my bottomless wounds until I couldn't feel my lungs fill with knobs and rumbles. I found pain to be a penetrating relief, the claustrophobic gasp after tear gas. Pain was a throbbing punishment that made me superior and unkind and brave. It was more than a broken heart sinking like a molting dish rag consumed between my thighs. It was a cough crumbling in an esophagus. Because if I held no pain, then how could I be of worth to you?
Loving this.
Thank you. I do not know what I am doing here. It had to be like being singed along your fingertips. You should be having the time of your life, but I wasn't having anything but mental breakdowns every time a man I loved but barely knew was silent for too long. I should have been the way most of the girls were, but I couldn't get myself to be still and not empty. I knew he, they, we would get sick of me. But he knew how to whisper into the center of my dew-filled bones. It hurt, and I know how to be hurt, how to melt it down to the rinds of a shadow, like the ones I had hid from all throughout my life. How to make someone else see right through me. Thanks. And I'm about to read my last poem. But one thing I really want to make clear, I was blessed enough to be able to work in Arizona at Kayenta Unified School District, which is on the Navajo Nation. If any of you have been watching COVID news, Navajo Nation has the worst COVID rate in comparison to 7 major states. If you look at the numbers aren't as high as major states, but for the percentage of people who live there, they're incredibly high. Native American reservations were created to entrap Native people, to make it harder for them to get their rights that they deserve. One thing I thought was interesting is that on the Navajo Nation, they forced the sterilization of Navajo women and Navajo men through the water supply. The Trump administration, in my opinion, if they're brought into power again, will strip Native lands of their home, as they tried to do in Massachusetts. And I want to be very clear that the Navajo Nation has not been given any of their COVID-19 support. Financial support, they're owed, I want to say $40 million, and they haven't received any of it. Another thing I want to say is that when Donald Trump met with the leaders of the reservation, he gave Navajo Nation 1,000 COVID tests. Not 1,000 a day, not 1,000 a week, not 1,000 a month, just 1,000. So that lasted until the end of that press conference, and then they had to still figure it out. I know it's so easy when we think about race to focus on Black versus white, but it's so much bigger than that, and we have to think about the people who were here first and watched themselves be wiped out, and they weren't respected, or they were forced into assimilation up until World War II, when Navajo code talkers were the reason that we won the World War, because they were the only ones who could speak a language that was never written down. And of course, it was a language we tried to cut out their tongues for speaking. Please, as you continue to work on your allyship, of course, to people of color and mainly to Black people at this time, please think of the Native Americans and try to do your part in discussing them, because one of the grossest things I found out is that when I told people I was going to the reservation, they said, I thought Native Americans were extinct. And that's, of course, disgusting thing to hear, but it's akin to the way that we speak on Native Americans, and the fact that political parties have moved them out of the equation. Because slavery is one of the biggest sins in American history, but Native American genocide is the biggest sin in American history.
Yep, it sure is.
So please keep that alive and stand up for them as often as you can, because they deserve so much better than what we've given them.
And I would say, aho mitakuyesin, which means we are all related.
Thank you.
And eugenics was a legislative act. Congress wrote, let's poison the blankets and give that to them. That was an act of Congress. So I'm not surprised by any of this.
Yeah.
Inhumanity.
It's disgusting. And I've also, I'm not going to pretend that I've had it all figured out, because I'm 27 years old and barely know how to separate my laundry well. So don't have it all figured out, but always be open to learning and having conversations, because there are so many other areas that we're ignorant to that's really creating a problem. And this is, to quote Dave Chappelle's last stand-up, this is the wrath of God that is happening now. This is things getting shaken up to an alarming extent, and change needs to be had on all fronts. And with that, I implore everyone to please vote however you want, but please, with someone who's not racist. That's all I say. Okay. I will end this with a poem. Thank you guys for.
Oh, Jamilla.
I loved everyone's poems before. They show me that one thing I love about poetry is that you can tell your story in a way that everyone understands, even if they've never experienced it. And it's so beautiful to hear. Then We Have Been is started off as just like my fear from being pregnant and from being ready to give birth in this transition. And it's actually a line from Virginia Woolf's suicide note to her husband, when she at the end says, "No two people have been happier than we have been." And my husband, he's like never takes pictures with me, so I'm not hiding him, he's hiding himself. But he's honestly my partner. Like I don't write and publish anything or even send it out to publishers without him reading it. And he hates reading, but till death do us part. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Please keep doing the work. Everyone, I suggest you watch 13th Amendment and practice self-care and get ready for November, where we will vote to change the world and give our future generations something to look forward to. This is my last poem. Thank you for having me. 12:02 a.m. The moon provides a healing, an invitation to sit low within oneself and outside of oneself. Let the stars guide you backwards to the womb. Bathe yourself, forgive yourself, and be whole. 11:38 a.m. I curse and pray aloud with strong hesitation, ashamed that my God has grown tired of hearing my knees crack on linoleum, my damp palms slap on tiles, my head hung low, my neck broken with grief and regret. 8:30 p.m. I am the lover that I've been asking for, with all laughs and fingertips, tracing spines mindlessly. And at dawn, the moon baptizes me warmly, and I can forget to remember you. I will become the syllables in an old love poem that I had swallowed whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jamilla.
Keep going. Put your hands
Yeah,
together about
Jamilla.
30 more times.
Yes.
This is history tonight.
Yes.
Jamilla VanDyke-Bailey, our first online feature. The honor is ours. The book is hers. If you go to the online link, her book is available for purchase as both PDF and print. I got the print version. Whatever you guys are welcome to. For those of you who have Venmo, if you don't have Venmo, it's very easy to link up. You can do it in 5 minutes or less. And I hate linking stuff up to my phone. But for those of you who can, please throw a few bucks her way to her account. I'm going to be placing her information on the Facebook. But if you can, please open up the Zoom group chat. Actually, maybe I should call it the Zoop. But the Zoom group chat, and her name is there at $ the Queen Mother, and you can Venmo her a few bucks that way, or you can buy her book. I urge you to do both. One of the things that I wish I could have enacted before, I could have enacted earlier when we went online, was the more supporting of poets and online. But now, with them being features, we can definitely do that now. So I urge you and I implore you and beg you to please do this. And I'll be tagging people tomorrow to do it as well, and all throughout the rest of the week, from when I first post our screen capture thank you, to our YouTube link, to the Stone Soup Crouton poem, which I write every Friday, which is a compilation of everything I hear from the open mic. Basically, I steal. Basically, I write influenced by the open mic and everyone's works. I'll be putting the links to that as well. So no one's got an excuse, especially if you're Facebook friends with me. But hopefully those of you who are here that aren't part of Stone Soup on a regular, heard of us or know the websites now, or you're friends of Jamilla, and I hope you do support her. So again, thank you very much. And I do want to speak with you later, Jamilla, privately, to get some of those links and to share those as well. Breonna Taylor, of course, is definitely on the brain these days, but the person who you mentioned, the name was not automatically familiar to me. And
Hendrik Johnson?
Yes, and I want to get information on that as well, including anything that you've written, because Black Lives Matter is the theme for Stone Soup, and we've had a lot of allies so far, but I definitely want Black voices and other people. So I'm speaking out to the Black voices who might be online or people who know people. I want to help. I want to be that conduit for you. So through Oddball Magazine and through Stone Soup. So please pass on your words. A lot of things are happening today, but the one thing I just was inspired to put on Facebook is that no one is erasing history right now. History is being reevaluated because we actually know our history. We actually know it better than we ever have before. And I want to keep that thought process going, and I want to keep the learning going, and I want to keep the sharing going. So if you're a new voice, if this is your first time, I want to hear from you. I want you to share, and I want you to learn. And most of all, when we have voices that you haven't heard from before, from perspectives, I want us all to listen. And this is a great group of listeners. And Jamilla, you were an amazing person to listen to. So I want to do the unmute again and have everyone give another applause.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
And with that, we're going to conclude Stone Soup. This has been, I think this is even longer than this might be almost at least as long as the 46th anniversary celebration, which was the open mic. Again, for those of you here for the first time, Stone Soup Poetry is available to join through Facebook. We have a website. I have a newsletter. My name is Chad Parento. That's Parenteau. I'm very easy to contact either via Facebook or via my website. I'm very easy to get during a name search. If you are interested in interacting and continuing this discussion or sharing or even featuring or reading yourself, please let me know. I do want to help you. I do want to be, like I said, I do want to be that conduit. And I do want to thank Jamilla for giving us the feature that we needed, especially in these times. So this is fantastic, and I want to carry on that tradition. Next week, we have Liza Zayas, who I hope you all come back for. She has a fantastic voice. Her last couple of features have been fantastic, but not as well attended, just due to bad luck or due to our location not being ideal. But we have no excuses tomorrow. Not tomorrow. We have no excuses next week. And feels like a week passes by quickly. But I hope you are all part of that. I want to keep you all going. You're all my friends. Please make that true on Facebook, on Stone Soup Poetry, the webpage. And I hope to see you all next time. Have yourself a great night.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Chad.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Do the obligatory wave so it looks good for the picture I screen capture later.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Ooh.
The show's over.
Okay, good night.